Estonia es la primera nación digital del mundo con residencia electrónica, lo platicábamos hace unos momentos. Es la primera nación en utilizar blockchain a nivel gubernamental. Este país también se destaca por ser una nación innovadora que va de la mano con la tecnología. Estonia comparte su sueño y su éxito, que es construir una sociedad digital. Nos acompaña esta mañana Erika Pyrmans, asesora de transformación digital. Ella labora en el Centro de Información y Estonia. Es una ponente experta en digitalización de los servicios del sector público y asesora a un amplio público sobre infraestructura pública digital, diseño de servicios centrados en el ciudadano, gobernanza y estatal, mentalidad de liderazgo con visión de futuro y mucho más. Su conferencia se titula eStonia, más allá de lo digital. Le damos la bienvenida. We welcome Erika Pyrmans. Erika, thank you for being part of this edition of América Digital México 2024.
Muy buenos días, América Digital México. I'm really happy to be back and address you again from the government, from the most digital government in the world. And we heard throughout this presentation a lot of this introduction that we strive to be the most digital country in the world, that we apply a lot of emerging technologies. Yeah, that's true. All of that is true. But we don't do it to be digital. We do it to give value. I will actually start a little bit with a personal story from how I grew up in a digital society. I've been forever a part of a digital member. So when you were little, did you have some kind of dreams who you're going to become? You know, my dream was not to be this unicorn. Raise your hand if you had a dream as a kid who you're going to be when you grow up. Yeah, of course. That's what kids do, we dream. So my dream also, when I was 10, I knew I'm going to be a dancer. I was sure of it. I started to dance. I got really good in a really short time. And I thought, this is my career. I am going to be a choreographer, dance teacher. I am going to be a dancer. And then I broke my 2 knees. And that dream was over in an instant. So what happened in the next year after that was in and out of hospitals, tests, analysis, diagnosis, different machinery, more analysis. But I remember one instance, and they put me to an MRI machine to get a really close look of what my knees are actually. Can they operate me? Can they know what's going to happen? I was a really young kid back then. And I remember going home from the MRI scan. In a couple of days, I logged into my medical portal. And I could see my 2 knees 360 degrees. Just rotating them around. And, you know, for my life, it was a failure. I just lost my dream. I'm never going to be a dancer again. But I just remember how cool it was that I could see my knees in this medical portal. So that goes, I didn't think back then that it was, oh, so digital, that is, oh, so digitally advanced. I, as a 17-year-old, I didn't care that it is digital. I just remember that it was an incredibly cool experience seeing my knees from a digital portal. And that's the whole point of being a digital country. It's not to have all of the blockchain and every technology available. What you want to really emphasize and where you want to highlight is people's lives. And that goes more beyond digital. That is not the technologies themselves, it's a lifestyle. So I'm going to share the Estonia's experience from the past 30 years, how we've been able to digitalize a society and become one of the most digital societies in the world. We started very early on, in the beginning of 90s, with the digital first strategy, with the mindset, with the goal of where Estonia is going to be. Re-independent Estonia from the Soviet Union was poor. and no offense to all of you companies here and startups, being a startup founder is hard. It's hard to build a company. Try to build a country. That's even harder. You have no angel investors who believe in you. You have no starting capital. We inherited incredibly corrupt public sector from the previous regime. So basically from the rock bottom. But we knew that we had to focus on people, root out the corruption from our society and value the person and offer them a good experience. And moreover, to give people the transparency that they were looking for after such a corrupt governance system. So today we have 99% of all of the government services online. Well, there is actually only one service that is not. It's divorce. But you don't have to worry because by the end of this year, the CIO of the government said that he will digitalize the divorce as well. So really soon I have to change the number, 100% digital services. But again, that's not where the impact comes. It comes when you actually offer added value. And Estonia's success in digitalization is we are doing this together with private sector through the partnerships, through acquisition of technology, and that is the reason how can we accelerate our amazing achievement in digital sphere. Very quickly, the 3 building blocks of the digital society as well, on which all of these services stand. First of all, we needed to have a very strong key, a login to all of the government services. And here it was also made mandatory as early as 2002. Because if you think yourselves back to when we made digital identity for all citizens, not even Facebook existed yet. People had no idea what does it mean to have a digital twin. Today, it's more normal that you have online logins to everything. Back then, that was quite new. But this key, this login, does not give you a service. So you needed to also have the availability of data, interoperable, standardized data that interact with one another. And for that, we're employing a simple middle layer of interoperability software. By the way, Estonian X-Road is also used in the state of Querétaro, so kudos to you also. And then integrity of the whole system. Yes, we are the first country to use blockchain timestamping, and through personal data tracker, every citizen can know how their data is used by the government authority or private sector actor. The data belongs to me. The government reports the activity, what they do with my data. This sort of integrity and transparency is the key issue. And well, how embarrassing would it be if we would lose a part of our digital society just because we forgot to make copies? And this is why we're hosting a data embassy in Luxembourg. So the concept is, how do you back up your country in a different country? And that is exactly what Estonia is doing, taking the backup copies outside of Estonia's territory, just in case we might need the out-of-country copies. So now all of these services that you can imagine are running on the same infrastructure that, of course, you need to always upgrade, but the logic remains the same. And there is a heavy buy-in from the private sector as well. But a second desirable outcome was to incentivize entrepreneurship. We needed to grow our economy. We are a country of 1.3 million. Yes, you heard it right. Some of the districts, I imagine, in Mexico City are bigger than our whole country. We are 1.3 million. So where is our economical growth coming from? Are we an industrial country? Are we manufacturing something on a large scale? No, no. Our advantage is tech and services, something that is scalable, something that is global. So now the government's responsibility is to lay the foundation. It's not to subsidize. It's not to throw helicopter money. It's to give a very convenient business environment so that people would be business owners. Almost all businesses today in Estonia are established digitally, but at the same time, there are huge quality labels that prove the environment that we have very deliberately been cultivating. Here, for example, the Tax Competitiveness Index, number 1, we are 10 years in a row in the first place in the Tax Competitiveness Index. It's not a coincidence. 10 times a row does not happen because you got lucky, because you got good reporting year one year. No. 10 years in a row is a quality label showing that this is a flat tax rate, understandable, easy tax environment also for foreign companies to operate in. But of course, incentivizing 0% tax on retained and reinvested profit. So you pay tax only when you pay dividends, when you take money out of your company. But Estonia also has a 0% corporate tax. We believe in just making business, in creating a very straightforward, convenient business environment. You have a great idea, we say go ahead. We don't want to set borders, we don't want to create red tape. Go ahead, be a business owner. We say that yes, it's 3 hours to start a company in Estonia. The world record is actually 15 minutes. So the longest you will spend is probably thinking a name to your company because registration is really easy. And not only taxing, but all the reporting, employee registration, salary payment, annual, monthly reporting to the government, everything 100% digital. But then also the e-residency, the citizenship that you wanted me to comment on. We are, I told you, 1.3 million. So in one moment, we just hit the glass ceiling. We digitalized all of our 1.3 million of the citizens. And where next? How are we going to grow Estonia? So yes, we did create e-residency, the digital access to Estonia, to the government, thinking as being a platform to business owners. You want a convenient digital environment? We offer you e-residency. However, it's not a visa. It's not a citizenship. You cannot relocate to Estonia using the e-residency, but you can have access to the most digital country and to the lifetime economy. About this real-time economy concept, I will be talking about tomorrow in my second conference as well. And I drew up some of the Mexican statistics as well. That's a very impressive number. I really hope that after my speech, this number will grow. So yes, the e-residency is equal access, like a citizen access, but only a virtual one, viewing government as a platform. You are looking the most convenient environment. We are, as a government, we're offering you one. And Estonia, known as the startup nation that has grown 10 unicorns, that place us the absolute top in Europe per capita, but also on top of the world, sharing first, second, the classification question with Israel. A small country of 1.3 million, 10 incredible unicorns. That is not because we throw helicopter money to grow these unicorns. This is because we incentivize the entrepreneurship and we create a good, convenient foundation for them. Straight to business. You have a great idea, go ahead for that idea. As governments, we don't want to put hurdles. So after all of this digitalization, and this year we're going to be 100% digital nation with the divorce as well, what's next? Are we creating more services? Are we creating more ideas? Very often I'm also asked, like, Erika, what's next? I mean, you as Estonia, you are bringing these ridiculous concepts that governments don't do, so what's the next step? And the next step is actually start hiding your services. It's no more services, it's less. As I said in my opening, it's beyond digital. Start hiding the services. So what comes after? You, your lifestyle, your habits, your hobbies, your free time, your entrepreneurship. You come first, not your government. As governments, we are very often thinking about ourselves, about processes, because we like to do things, because we are governments and we can allow it. We are natural monopolies. If you have a lousy service from your tax board, what are you going to do? Go to another tax board? If you don't change your country, it's the same bad tax board. So we don't fight for our customers, but we should. We should think of the person, we should think what is the value that we are giving, and we should rethink how we offer the services as a government. Not how we want to, but how people live. And very often, we are thinking about the elderly. What about the grandmas in Estonia? Are they all online? A lot of them are, yes, they are. We have digital grandmas. Look, we've been doing this for 30 years. There has been a lot of upskilling programs, different trainings, different courses to bring people to use online services. But you don't have to. If you don't want, you can still use a traditional service. So yes, we have the grandmas covered. They can also use online banking and digital tax declaration. But let's not only focus on grandmas. Let's focus on the next generation. What do they want? Who are your next generation customers and what do they want? Are you preparing to give an added value for when the digitally born generation will become your customers? The government should think about it because the level, what they expect, is completely different. Even Estonian decades-old digital government, mature digital government, is too old for them. We need to transform. We need to transform really quickly. And we need to put these, our young children, the next generation, decision makers and entrepreneurs in the focus of all of this and cater to their needs and their incredibly high expectations. So this is not an Estonian-specific classification. This is the eras to measure government's maturities. So you start with e-government. You lay the foundation, the same 3 pillars: digital ID, interoperable data, security, and integrity of it. You lay the good foundation. Then you transit to digital government, where you already have end-to-end convenient services that you can use from wherever place, in whatever time. Not from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, when somebody's in the office, but when you want to interact with the government. So that's the second step. Today, Estonia is entering to post-digital. We are turning towards personalization. We are going for the added value for the citizen and redesigning how governments think of their services and focusing more on how people live. So these are the life events. What happened? We know what happens in people's lives. We know that children are born, that they start school in some moment. We also know that people get old and they retire. I mean, if that comes as a news for the government, you're not prepared. By any means, you're not prepared. That's not news. That's life. You should be ready for that. And here also, for example, let's take the marriage. It's not the proactive service. Look, guys, we see that you're living together for a long time. Why not getting married? It's not that kind of intervention. It's thinking, what does it mean for a person to get married? What does it mean for me? It is to put on a white dress. I'm very happy. This is the happiest moment of my life. I'm walking down the aisle to the love of my life. This is the marriage for me. For my government, marriage is, are you 18 years of age? Are you still not married to another person? Are you both not related to one another? What is the property status that you want? Shared property, not shared. You have to pay the state fee. Then if one of you wants to change the name, then you have to get new documents also. How romantic does that seem? So again, don't think how you as a government want to give marriage. Think how a citizen wants to receive marriage. And that's definitely not the 8 boring steps that I told you about. So here it is just using the common sense and technology to tie in different interactions, different services, different levels of institutions, federal, local governments, states, to interact and saying, Erica wants to get married. Let's give her a best user experience. So also democracy has a digital spirit, and that is what we are advocating with Digital Society. Not only online services, but your possibility to be a partner to the government, to have the added value from the government, and to participate in the processes that the governments legally have to provide to you. And then what can we draw from Estonia's experience from over 30 years of digitalization? Bringing new services, disrupting old ones, making things mandatory, having amazing amount of discussions in the society of what we should do and what should not, upskilling and training the population, thinking about new technologies and concepts that don't even exist. Data embassy is not regulated legally nowhere in international law. It doesn't exist because it's so new that they haven't been able to legislate yet. That has not been ever an obstacle for Estonia. I will also talk about tomorrow about our AI strategy, where we started, where no AI legislation existed yet. And today we're talking about more than 130 different AI components in the Estonian government alone. So what do we draw from here? It does not start from technology. It starts from leadership. Tech does not do the trick. Employing technology does not make your services better. If you digitalize bureaucracy, you get digital bureaucracy. You don't get better services. So you really have to redesign. And one thing that I understand why it's difficult for governments to digitalize is because it's not a quick win. It's not an easy political win. You don't have, after 4 or 5 years of governance cycle, usually you don't have big things to present to your voters. And that's political suicide. Yes, from Estonia's experience, we can see that this is political suicide. But that's not about you. That's about country. That's about your people. This is about a long-term vision that does not get realized just in one election cycle. So we understand why it's difficult for the decision makers to make the necessary changes. But also, it's simplicity. Test. Be ready. Just as I shared with you, no legislation exists for data embassy. We're still keeping it in Luxembourg. Estonia is receiving amazing amount of interest globally and requests for help. How can other countries also set up data embassies? What we got as a lesson learned, a very hard lesson learned, and not only as Estonia, but as Europe. We have war today in Europe. We have large-scale Russian aggression in Ukraine. That was not a surprise to Estonia. This is a wake-up to the global community and to the government leaders saying, what if your physical governance no longer is the grant to your sovereignty? What happens then? Do you have backups? Several times we mentioned today in the introduction pandemics, and there is a pre and post pandemic. For us, pandemics was business as usual. Things still continue to be, schools still function. It's funny because I was a teacher when pandemic happened. So the government made a full lockdown on one Friday evening. After just one weekend, on Monday morning, I was teaching live, virtually, in front of all my students, because we had rehearsed everything before. Digital interactions in our school system was a normal part of our everyday life. So now also, it's not only the pandemics, it's also bigger geopolitical disruptions that happen in the world. Do you have backups? Do you have innovative systems that you have deployed and put into place when the traditional systems no longer function? Very often is being said that it only functions, the digital governance in Estonia, because your people trust the government. We don't trust the government. I mean, why do you need to trust the government? Now, that logic, again, is reversed. I don't have to trust my government. My government has to show me that it can be trusted. It's a different equation. It's about transparency. It's about government reporting to me what they are doing with my data. It's the different logic here. And to get out of the mistrust, to get out of this reluctancy of giving your data to the government needs to be by default open. Like the technologies as the blockchain, the timestamping, but also the data tracker where you report technologically to people what happens to your data. And I call the blockchain the objective source of truth. Well, the bad thing is that it will also give you bad truth. It will also give you reports when somebody has illegally used your data, but it's the whole truth. And that also helps with transparency and generating the credibility of the government. Let's not build data silos. Let's share. That's a very direct takeaway from Estonia's X-Road. Let's not have millions of copies of my same data in different government institutions. What are we doing? Why are we copying this? Why are we telling people to be taxi drivers of their documents, taking the same papers from one institution to the second, then they make copies, they bring you to the third place, they make copies, and then finally somewhere you get a service. What is this? Why are we driving papers around? That's ridiculous. So let's not make duplication. Let's make real-time accessible data and services on an integration, on data standards. That's simple technologically to achieve, but the only thing it takes is coordination. That's human skill. Service design matters, and why? Because of the next generation, because of the children that I showed you. They have completely different standards, expectations, requests when it comes to entrepreneurs and governments. They are no longer satisfied with your old services, with your lousy user experience. You're out of business. You're out of business as a government also. Why? Because they find somewhere else to establish their company. I call it government as a service. Why? Because what if You have a very analog government, bureaucratic, just, different red tape and different obstacles to become an entrepreneur. No worries. I go to the most digital society in the world where I can do real-time business. I very often, I make these international conferences, but I also sometimes talk in Spain, which is our fastest growing market for Estonian e-residency in Europe. And I said, guys, do you understand that we are taking your businesses out of Spain and moving them to Estonia? The people still get to experience the wonderful Spanish beaches. I mean, we're up in the north. You have 9 months of cold weather. That's not your ideal destination physically. But what if you could remain enjoying the Mediterranean climate and do the business with Estonia? And that's true. This is the government as a service, government as a platform, and you as a service provider. People will find more convenient environments. And today, with globalized world, with borderless businesses, they're no longer stuck with your physical, bureaucratic, lengthy, slow government structures. They want something more agile. And there are alternatives. So just to tell you why the service design matters, the e-residency program upkeep for the Estonian company annually is about $8 million annually. Last year alone, the tax money that went straight from e-residency companies to Estonian state budget was close to $65 million. So that's really high return on investment. It's really profitable project just because a mind shift. You open up the environment and you say, look, we're online and we're offering you a very convenient environment as well. This is why serving your customers matter. And finally, governments don't know best. We are not innovators. We are not the drivers of change. Governments are slow. Governments are conservative. Governments are cautious. Oh, we don't have to do anything so crazy. People expect us to be conservative. What do you mean you have e-residency? What do you mean you're using AI in the government? Are you insane? So we need the help of private sector to move fast, to innovate in a level what our citizens and residents are expecting from us. They are expecting agility. They are expecting the good user experience. They are expecting the government to hide themselves on the back end and put in the focus their life. Is it your private life as a person? Is it your life as an entrepreneur? This is what you want to be engaged in, not in the government. Nobody cares actually about the government. They're obligatory things that you have to interact with and then just hide. Go away and hide and let people to interact with their real lives actually. So through the public-private partnerships, this is how Estonia has been able to innovate, how we continue to innovate, how we are the global leaders in public sector digital services, how we are always giving a test bed, global test bed through open data, different physical and digital infrastructure to come and test your services, your business model in Estonia. So finally, this is how Estonia has been able to succeed. How we see that, yes, no culture is 100% the same. Estonia is not a shelf product that you can copy, paste, and apply to all of the different countries as well immediately. No. But there are very concrete lessons learned that we see over 3 decades that are finally the source behind Estonia's success. So what I would like to highlight as the end of my presentation is that digital society is a team sport. You don't do it alone. Estonia does not do it alone. Not as a government, we're applying the private sector's help as well, but as a global community, sharing the best practices like the good state of Querétaro is a great example here, applying the same technology that Estonian government. And so many other governments following suit here. But finally, why I want to highlight that this is a team sport is because we are all in the same environment. Cyberspace does not have borders. We have the same proximity there. You think that, oh, poor Estonia, that you are the neighbors of Russia. I have bad news, you're also neighbors of Russia. The cyber distance to Estonia and to Mexico is the same. So no one is safe. So therefore, we really advocate for interconnected, safe community where we share best practices, where we innovate each other and inspire each other to bring the new technologies and help also cross-border data and services of people. This is, of course, a bigger, stronger initiative in European Union where we have the same legislative system. But we also know that people are mobile. People are global today, thanks to their lifestyle, their entrepreneurial spirit, that they want to have businesses, global businesses. So this is why we are really looking to collaborate with governments, societies across the world, with companies across the world, with the entities that have similar mindset, similar value system than us, and saying that yes, we are very digital. We are offering value through being very digital, but we are far from being alone. So this is a bigger value proposition. And finally, you have to think about the consumers. Who are the citizens and who are the companies? So this is why finally we are doing eEstonia, to not go on international stages and talk about how great we are in blockchain or AI, but to really think, how can we give the best user experience to our people? How can they live their life where governments are mostly in the background, where they don't feel that they have to take a free day to interact with their government, where you are being empowered, where your time is valued? That is the whole point of eEstonia. And thank you so much for the interest. I hope to continue conversations with you and stay connected.